Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya on a Saturday morning. Today we will be continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, verses 30 and 31. This is the instruction which Narada Muni gave to the Chitas. And this is a recorded class of His Holiness Badrinarayan Swami Maharaj. Just play that.
Actually worked out of getting the Detroit temple. You know, they catch these politicians with live mics and they say something insidious or critical or something. So probably was sometimes caught on a live mic. And I'm just thinking of one time. In defense of the devotees, Prabhupada was supposed to come in 10 days, but there was the chance, which actually worked out, of getting the Detroit temple, the Devasadan Mandir, the beautiful, beautiful temple. It was built by the head of Cadillac Motors, something Fisher, I forget his first name. And I mean, just to give you an example, we're off the track, but it's okay. Just to give you an example, where the temple room was, became the temple room, was a designed like a Venetian piazza, a plaza in Venice. It had nice, it was just beautiful. And it had lights. This is in the 1970s. You could turn these different knobs, and the lights, it would look like evening time with stars and a moon that lit in the ceiling. It had, it could look like a sunrise. It would have a little light, kind of an orange around the rim. It was just, had all kinds of far out stuff. And where the ballroom was here, and then there was another room where the orchestra used to sit. And where the orchestra was, is where we put the altar with the deities. And there were 3 arches, just like, 2 smaller arches and a main arch. And carved in it was all rosewood carved, the arches. And in them were peacocks, lotuses, and elephants. It's pretty far out, right? Prabhupada said, when he saw that, Prabhupada said, Krishna has engaged this rich man to build this building for us. It has simply been waiting for us to come and pick it up. So it was so many things were far out about that building. But to finish just quickly about the live mic. So when there was the chance of getting the building, and there was it's a whole story. So Prabhupada came immediately. And so we thought we had 10 days to get everything ready, and all of a sudden we had 3 days. So you can imagine, And I mean, the devotees, practically speaking, had not really slept, maybe rested their bones now and then. So I say that in defense. And because the schedule had changed, there were 3 Radha Damodar buses came to Mal Krishna Maharaj and Vishnu Jan Swami and Jayananda and all their brahmacharis. So the temple room was packed. And Prabhupada sat down to give the talk, and he looked out at the audience, and practically everyone had fallen asleep. I would have been asleep, but I was cooking breakfast for the devotees, so I was ambulatory. I was moving. So I didn't fall asleep. And I ran up the steps. It probably was on the temple room, was on the 3rd floor. I ran up in the attic, renovated attic. So I went upstairs to take a peek. and at Prabhupada. And as I looked around the Vyasasan, I looked around the corner of the, into the temple room, and everybody was sound asleep, sannyasis and brahmacharis and householders. And Prabhupada said, actually, I'm sorry, but Prabhupada, and I'll just say it this way: Prabhupada said, "This movement is going on by the mercy of Krishna alone." And then he looked out at all the devotees asleep and said to himself, "That is a fact." So it's a fact that this movement goes on by Krishna's mercy alone, and the sincerity of the devotees. The next morning, Prabhupada looked out, and the mic, they were getting the stand and the glasses and everything set up, and Prabhupada was just waiting, they were adjusting the mic. And Prabhupada looked out, and it was hippies, college students, inner city folks, kids, just the whole spectrum, factory workers. It's Detroit. It was the whole kind of the, plethora of humankind, or whatever you want to say. Everybody was there. And Prabhupada looked out, and he said to himself, he chuckled, and then he said, "Krishna's lotus feet, they're big enough for everyone. That whoever you are, wherever you're at, whatever, that you can find shelter in Krishna's lotus feet." So it was quite sweet. Alrighty. Jai Radho Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radho Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Jasodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Jasodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Jamunitira Vanatari Jamunatira Vanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Jasodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanatari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bo Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Radho Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radho Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radho Madhava Kunda Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Puri Vijakacharya Siddhanta Shisham, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON DBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kora Vaishnavrinda Ki. Nam Char Shaidas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadip Dham Ki. Jagannathpuri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Sambhira Bhakti Vrinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Sri Radha Giridhari Ki. Sri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Gopremanande. All glories of the sum of devotees. All glories of the sum of devotees. All glories of the sum of devotees. All glories of the divine Lord Sita, Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Sudamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalanda Sadasham Mesha Paranarko Dunodata Narayana Namaskritchananam Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayat. The Bhagavatam, as Brinda's son, is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge of religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, We should first offer our respects to the personality of God in Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Sukha Uvacha Iti Anamya Tam Amantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Judikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nivritsaya Shisuka Uvacha Iti Anamya Tamamantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Dridrikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nivritashaya Shisuka Uvacha Iti Anamya Tamamantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Dridrikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nirvitasaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Iti Anamya Tamamantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Dridrikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nirvitasaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Iti Anamya Tamamantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Dridrikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nirvitasaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Iti Anamya Mantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Dridrikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nirvitasaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Iti Anamya Mantra Viduro Gajasavayam Svanam Dridrikshu Prayaya Gyatinam Nirvitasaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Anamya, offering obeisances, Tam, unto Maitreya, Amantra, taking permission, Vidura, Gajasavyam, the city of Hastinapur, Svanam, own, Jujikshu, desiring to see, Prayaya, left that place, Gyatinam, of his kinsman, Nivrita Ashaya, free from material desires. Shukadev Goswami continued, Vidura thus offered obeisances unto the great sage Maitreya, and taking his permission, started for the city of Hastinapur to see his own kinsman, although he had no material desires. So you say. Shri Sukadev Goswami continued, Vidura thus offered obeisances unto the great sage Maitreya, and taking his permission, started for the city of Hastinapur to see his own kinsman, although he had no material desires. Purport. When a saintly person wants to see his kinsman, he has no material desire to see them, He simply wants to give them some instructions so they can benefit. Vidura belonged to the royal family of the Kauravas, and although he knew that all the family members were destroyed at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he nonetheless wanted to see his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, to see if he could deliver Dhritarashtra from the clutches of Maya. When a great saintly person like Vidura sees his relatives, he desires only to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. Vidura thus offered his respectful obeisances unto his spiritual master and departed for the city of Hastinapur, the kingdom of the Kauravas. And we'll read the last verse because there's no purport, and that way we can close out the chapter. What's that? Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Now let's find that verse. Wait a minute. So chapter 31. No, it's just it's a long story. I'll spare you. Okay, so then the last verse with no purport is, O king, those who hear these topics about kings who are completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead obtain without difficulty a long life, wealth, good reputation, good fortune. Good list, but is that it? I'll read it again. Obtain without difficulty a long life. Even a redwood tree lives for so many years, thousands of years. So, wealth, okay, Indra's got wealth. Good reputation, good fortune, and ultimately the opportunity to return back home, back to Godhead. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta Purports of the 4th canto, 31st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Narada Instructs the Prachetas. So, let's see here. I want to get to an analogy given by Narada Muni and talk about this good opportunity. It's always good to remember our good fortune. Sometimes devotees say, well, I have to cook the evening offering, or I have to go on book distribution. Actually, you don't have to do anything. You can go home to your mother, or, whatever it may be. Actually, we have the great opportunity there's millions of living, it's described, I don't know which Purana it's in, but it's described, if you consider the whole planet Earth, picture the ocean, the 7 seas, which Bhaktamite can actually do having been a mariner himself. So picture all the oceans, and in that ocean, all the 7 seas, there's one log floating. And in that log, there's one hole. This is from is it Padma Purana? There's all the oceans, there's one log. And in that whole ocean, there's one sea turtle. And the turtle just happens to poke its head up out of the ocean in that log through the one knothole in the log. What are the odds of that? So to actually come in contact with devotional service and a pure devotee of Krishna and the chance to go back home, back to Godhead, it is it's incalculably rare. So we should consider, remember our good fortune, but we'll get there in a second. So it describes how Vidura was grateful. And that's the theme we want to get to. We want to get how fortunate we are to be able to be devotees and engage in devotional service. And it's also described that Prabhupada, there's that Mukunda Maharaj tells the story, how his Prabhupada was going back after his heart attack, was going back to India, and the devotees didn't know if Prabhupada was going to make it, and if they were ever going to see him again. And was it Mukunda? Mukunda Maharaj asked, can you send a replacement? Can you send in the reserves? Send in one of your godbrothers can come over. And Prabhupada was quiet. And then later on, Prabhupada told him, one should never think like that. One should think that my spiritual master has saved me. And Prabhupada began to cry. And it's a fact that we've just been picked up out of the ocean of cycling, but we got Prabhupada's books, And Prabhupada has saved us. It is a most amazing thing, really. So there should be that. I was talking with, it's a long story, but the other day, well, I'll just say it. And Prabhupada says a good wife is a fortress against material desires. Junior Haridas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he thought of a woman, banished him. But Shivananda Sen, who was a householder, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu named all of his children. So we're not, don't get me wrong, we're not anti-householder. But I had a sannyasi's nightmare that I dreamt, this was a couple months ago, I dreamt that I was getting married. And I thought, why? I said, why in the world am I, what's going on here, And where are my friends? Where's Dravida? Where's Shivaram Swami? I mean, save me. How is this happening? It was happening in my dream. It was happening the next morning, And I was like, oh, jeez, and I don't want to get this. The last thing in the world I want to do is get married. I raised 2 kids and finally got rid of them. I mean, my children, I love them, great, Hare Krishna, but they're on their own. I'm done, And I thought, oh, jeez, And I was completely in anxiety. And then I woke up. And I remember I was so relieved. I just rolled right out of my bed and offered my full dandavats. I said, oh, Krishna, thank you, So, and it's a fact. If you ever have a bad dream, you ever have Prabhupada says sometimes devotees, they get the reaction for sinful activities in the form of a bad dream. Rather than having to take a whole life and be tortured or whatever, you just have a bad dream. It's a token reaction. So it happens sometimes to devotees. And everybody's had a bad dream, haven't they? I mean, we're having one right now in the material world. But that's my point. And to wake up, that really, oh, jeez, it was just a dream, we used to have, where the sound room is now, that we used to have a little petty cash room there. Were you here those days? And it may still be there in the steps. There's a little Balaram remembers. There was a little hatch, and you could push it, and you would drop your Sankirtan money there, So I don't remember if it was Jamuna or maybe it was Dharma Setu. I forget who it was. So devotees, you just stick your hand in there and drop your little whatever your Sankirtan collection was, And so either Jamuna or Dharma Setu were in there, and they have a nice sense of humor. So some innocent bhakta dropped his Sankirtan money in there, and Jamuna grabbed his hand, and the devotee, oh sweet Jesus, it was ah! And then then he realized, oh, it's just somebody playing it. But that relief, you think, oh, geez, it's just a joke or a dream. How relieved we feel. So the point I'm trying to make, and if you're having a bad dream, I mean, I dreamed one time I was in Mayapur and I was in Prabhupada's room and Prabhupada was talking to me, giving me some, and I remember waking up and I just said, I'm going back. I can see if I can go back into that dream. Didn't work out. But so that kind of dream we may want to go back to. But is anybody here awakened from a bad dream, being chased by a tiger, whatever it may be, and then woke up and said, oh, I'm going back. I'm going to go back into it. Is that a natural reaction? If you have a series of bad dreams, I remember I was on some medicine when I had that. They put a pacemaker in my heart, and I had to take some heavy medicine for about 3 days, and I had some really bad dreams. And I remember thinking, I don't want to go back to sleep. I was, they were scary, So to come to Krishna consciousness, meet a bona fide spiritual master, be engaged in the sangha of the devotees, and then to go back, it's like going back into a bad dream. So that relief, that gratitude and relief, that's how a disciple feels, that my spiritual master has saved me. Then Also, it says about asking permission. Before Vidura left to go back to Hastinapur, he asked permission of Maitreya. This is one of the things, ashram life. And, Mike and Tyler, you're not living, in the ashram, but your is ashram life. And also, we've got Bhakta Scott Bhakta Ed got out of their warm beds and came over this morning. So that the benefit of the brahmachari ashram is it trains one before one becomes a householder. It trains one that everything is the property of Krishna, as of the spiritual master. And one thinks, my body, my mind, my house, there's that song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, my family, my house, whatever, my mind, whatever I have is yours. So that asking permission, it's not my money, it's not my house, it's not whatever it is, it's not mine, it's Krishna's. So that sense of then everything should be used in Krishna's service. So that training is essential, that's how a devotee sees. And we'll get to that in a second. So Vidura is showing the example of a proper disciple. He has a sense of gratitude, and he's taking permission. We don't just, I've asked devotees, and I've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. Niranjana Swami, I'm in Mayapur. We're sitting on the veranda waiting for the GBC meeting to start. And he says, come on over here. I want to show you something. He said, read this letter. And the letter was, oh, dear Gurudev, you're the lotus of my life. You're the light of the sun and the moon. You're, all the perfumed words were there. Then the devotee who wrote the letter got around to business. I know you told me to do this, but I'm doing that. I know you told me not to do this, but I'm going to do this. Please give me your blessings. So Niranjana Swami said, what do I do with this letter? What do I do with this letter? If I give the guy he's going right off a cliff. I can't give him my blessings. He's going to go off a cliff. But if I don't do it, he's going to do it anyway. It's gur aparad. How do I answer this person's letter, So we should, if I just listen to my mind, I forget who said it. Maybe it was Mukunda Maharaj also. If we just listen to our mind, then we have a fool as a disciple. My mind, my intelligence got me here. Got me in the material world. Kali Yuga is the bottom of the barrel. Here I am. Everybody else with the brain got out. So here we are at the bottom of the barrel in Kali Yuga in these miserable bodies. You ever seen a little kid play with his body? They like to skip and jump. They're having a great. It's like a Gumby toy. They're having a great time because it's all new and it's starting to work and You ever see somebody 60 years old skipping down the street? If he is, he's drunk. And he's about to fall into a manhole. So it's a collapsible contraption of pulleys and wheels and bags. What does Rukmini say? Blood, mucus, stool. She just lays it out, and then she says, "But decorated with a mustache." Put a nice little, what do they say? Pigs on a lipstick on a pig or whatever it is. It's still a pig. So that sense of to take permission. It's not to ask good advice. But it's so hard. I want this. I need this. I have to do this. You don't understand. The mind screams so many crazy things. But one should be intelligent. Okay, fine. Let's look at it. What has this mind, my dear mind, where have you taken me? What have you really, what have you done for me lately? What have you actually done for me? Well, you've given me anxiety and fear and hankering and lamenting and envy. What have you done for me? Fear. I'm never satisfied. People, just a moment's peace. So they were saying, oh, we're so opulent in the West. Prabhupada says, what is your opulence? Prabhupada said, you don't even have the opulence of a moment's peace. So, okay. Now, the Vedas, the devotees, Guru Sadhu Sangha, Shastra, Guru Shastra, Guru Shastra Sadhu, what are they offering? What are the people who are following them? Nasochite, Nakanchite, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. They're fully happy, they're full of mercy, full of compassion. Even in the greatest danger, they're completely satisfied. Even in the greatest danger, they're thinking of the welfare of others. Prabhupada on his disappearance bed, and Prabhupada was not in a peaceful condition. I mean, he was in a peaceful condition, but he, this, what is it, Maharaj Katvanga? That let me die now. Is it Kulashekar or Katvanga? Who says, let me die now? Kulashekar. Let me die now, because when my mind is clear, because when I'm old, my throat is choked up, and I've got so many things going on. So Prabhupada, but he was simply to his last. Prabhupada, it's off the track, but it's worthwhile. Jeez. Prabhupada, at 80 plus, Shruti Kirti told me that he traveled with Prabhupada for a year plus, maybe like 14 months. And he literally was worn out. He collapsed. Prabhupada he picked it up in Hawaii, picked up Prabhupada, joined Prabhupada in Hawaii, traveled, and when they got back to Hawaii, he literally could not go on. And he went to the doctor. And he had jaundice, he'd been through the doctor said, what have you been doing? He said, have you been training for a triathlon? He said, you're anemic, you got jaundice. He said, what you need to do is just rest for 3 months. He said, that's all you need. You just exhaust. What have you been doing? And Shruti Kirti said, before he joined ISKCON, in high school, he was known as the Italian Stallion. He was on the football team, and he was like in great shape. And then, and he was in New Vrindavan. He was, working on the farm. He was 14 months with Prabhupada. So the doctor said, what have you been doing, training for a triathlon? He said, no, I've just been trying to keep up with my 80-year-old spiritual master. So towards the end, the last year, Prabhupada's body was fading. And he made that last trip to New York, and then there's the last trip he made to London, but this was his last time in New York. And the devotees were begging Prabhupada, Prabhupada, just go to Gita Nagari and rest. Ramaswar told me this. And it's well known. And that just, stay in Gita Nagari and rest and get your strength and don't, And then Prabhupada wouldn't take it. He was thinking about it, but then he wouldn't do it. And as he was going down in the elevator, and the devotees were making with the GBC and Sannyasi in the New York building, going out to go to the airport to keep traveling. And the devotees said, Prabhupada, they made their appeal one last time. And Prabhupada turned to the devotees and said, I want the benediction that I can fight for Krishna to my last breath. And the elevator doors opened up, the devotees were there with the kirtan, and Prabhupada just kept right on traveling, And I always remember, I want to fight for Krishna to my last breath. And then you see Prabhupada on his disappearance bed in Vrindavan. He cannot move. He can't stand up. He can't sit. He's not eating. Prabhupada's been living on Charnamrita or whatever they were, a little bit of. And they're holding the megaphone over his, the mic. Sorry, they're holding the mic. And Prabhupada's doing the Brahma Mohan Leela. And you read those purports. I mean, they're crystal clear. It's just an amazing thing. When you actually think about it, people are crying for their mother and for, morphine or whatever it is. Naveen Krishna's father, we're way off the track, but it's okay. Naveen Krishna's father Dr. Khurana. I knew him. I'd stayed at his house many times in Delhi. And Naveen called him and said, you know, Prabhupada, it looks like his last days, but can you go and see if you can do anything? So Dr. Khurana got some of his doctor friends, different specialists, and they all got in their car. There's only two types of cars in India those days, a black or white ambassador, which was really a 1954 Fiat. They just bought the whole factory and brought it over. That's how India got started. So they all got in their little caravan, you know, 6 or 7 doctors, different cars, all drove down. Now, Dr. Khurana, he told me the story personally, and he's a very nice man. He's passed away long ago, but he was a very nice man. But he was reserved. You know, he was you know, didn't wear his emotions on his sleeve, as they say. And when he told me the story, he said that, you know, and Prabhupada had stayed at his house. They'd done programs and stuff like that. So he knew Prabhupada. When he walked in, he was shocked. Because the last time he'd seen Prabhupada, Prabhupada was giving those lectures at the Ram Leela ground, you know, in Delhi, and just roaring like a lion. And he said Prabhupada looked like Bhishma on a bed of arrows. He said, because Prabhupada wasn't eating. And he said the skin was pushing on Prabhupada's bone. There was no fatty tissue. He said the skin was just pushing the nerves on the bones. He said an ordinary man would have been calling out in pain. Dr. Khurana walks in. Prabhupada's on his disappearance bed. Prabhupada says, Dr. Khurana, how are you? How's your family? How's your wife? How's your, you know? And Dr. Khurana, he said he was shocked. You know, he's walked into, you know, people in that condition, and they're just, you know, Doc, can you give me a shot of morphine, or can you give me 6 more days, or can you know, and he's completely in anxiety. And he said, and here's Prabhupada asking, how's him? How is he doing? How's his family? Prabhupada said, and you've come with some other doctor. He said, Prabhupada, we've just come just to see you, if we can help. Prabhupada said, you must be tired. You've been driving some distance. Turned to Akshayananda Maharaj, the temple president. Can you find them a room? Prabhupada said, take some rest, you know, and you know, take some prasadam, then come back and see me. Dr. Khurana said, when Dr. Khurana, and then he began to cry. He actually began to cry. He said, I've never seen anything like it. So that what launched this was that sense of gratitude and that sense of permission that I am so fortunate. Let me use everything I have in Krishna's service. Now, to finish, because I did want to read this thing, talking about opportunity, to remind us what is our situation and what have we actually received? Because it says, okay, that last verse, what does it say? I think I've got it here. So the chapter closes. Those who hear these topics obtain a long life, wealth, good reputation, good fortune. Well, it sounds, you know, okay, fine. But it's all, what is it? The sannyasis, we have a mantra we say that, you know, anyway, all of this is finished at the time of death. So the last line of this chapter is, and ultimately the opportunity to return home back to Godhead. So it reminded me there's Narada Muni is talking to the Haryasvas, who were also princes, you know, and they're also, you know, should they go out into the world and take up their worldly activities, or what about spiritual life? And and they're being encouraged by their father's Daksha, isn't it? They're being encouraged by Daksha to go out and engage in material. Daksha means materially expert. And so they're on the cusp there. And Narada Muni, as he's prone to do, appears on the scene. Narada means human, Da means one who delivers. He's the 10th. All the other sons of Brahma were expertly engaging in the material. They were pulling all the levers and all the wheels, and the material world was karma kanda. Everything was going on just great. And Brahma was not satisfied, because to just stay on the wheel, round and around we go, That's not, to get off the wheel is the business, off the wheel of samsara. So the 10th son of Brahma and his business is Narada Muni, and Narada Muni's business is to deliver everyone from the material nature. So similar situation. Here's what Narada says to them. And having heard this, these sons, how many were there? Haryasvas? I forget how many there were. Something like that. They heard this one verse from Narada Muni, turned their back on material life, all opulence, all these things that have been listed, and became great renunciates from this one verse. So let's see if we can understand what this verse is. And we'll unpack it. We'll be quick. The verse. This is from the 6th canto, chapter 5. It's verses 6 through 8. The great sage Narada Muni said, "My dear princes, you have not seen the extremities of the earth. There is a kingdom where only one man lives, and where there's a hole from which, having entered, no one emerges. A woman there, who is extremely unchaste, adorns herself with various attractive dresses, and the man who lives there is her husband. In that kingdom there's a river flowing in both directions, a wonderful house made of 25 materials, a swan that vibrates various sounds, and an automatically revolving object made of sharp razors and thunderbolts. You have not seen all of this, and therefore you are inexperienced boys without advanced knowledge." They heard this verse, understood immediately what he was talking about, turned their back on material life. What in the world was he talking about? We'll go through this quickly. You've not seen the extremities of the earth. That means the field of activities, how Krishna describes in the Gita. We're going through this quickly. But everyone's engaged in a field like a farmer plants seeds and reaps the harvest. So we're all busy performing activities, and we're all getting the fruits of that farming, the kshetra, the field of this body, field of activities. But what is the result of the whole thing? So you haven't seen the results of these things. You haven't seen the extremities of the earth. There's only one king. Who is that only one king in this world? Krishna. There's only one Purusha, and there's the enjoyer and there's the enjoyed, and we are all Prakriti. There's only one enjoyer, and that's Krishna. So that's the king. There's a hole. What is that hole from which, having entered, one never gets out? It's the material world. It's exactly so. It's all the different planetary systems. It's Nityabhata. Nityabhata means we've been in this material world so long, it's almost eternal. So Nityabhata. You fall in this material world, good luck. Hey, I'll pick up Krishna consciousness next time around. Well, hey, I put in a few good years, and I'll pick it up next time around. Well, when does that next time? Yeah, after 8,400,000 speed, you've been a dog, you've been a cockroach in the commode, you've been all the. Okay, fine. Wait for that train to come around? That's not a very good move. So that's the whole. There's an unchaste woman. We're not picking on women. You know what the unchaste woman is? Dravida Prabhu. It is the material intelligence we were talking about, the intelligence, I want this, I need this. So that's the unchaste woman. And, a prostitute, hey, baby, whatever their mantra is. And the poor sailor, just got off the boat with all the money in his pockets. We've seen the movies of the cartoons, meets the woman of ill repute, and he loses everything. So that he becomes captured. So we become captured by the impure intelligence in the material field of activity. The polluted, prostituted intelligence completely bewilders and enamors the living entity. It's described, this field of activities, the silkworm makes a cocoon. Does it think it's a great house? It's a great setup, Until what happens? As soon as the silk, whatever you call that person, weaver, comes along and throws them all in the boiling water, kills the worm, and they get the silk. So that very thing which it thought protected him is the very thing that is the cause of his death. That's what these activities are. It just entangles us in this whole thing, and then Yamaraj comes, and off we go. So there it is. Now, the husband of the prostitute is the conditioned soul dragged by the impure intelligence. There's a river flowing in two ways. What is that river, other than Dravida? It's the river of time, past, present, and future. It's the ebbing and flow of the creation and dissolution. So it's a great picture. We're being tossed, allured by the prostitute of the pure, impure intelligence. So that's the river that runs in two ways. We're almost done. The house of 25 elements. Anyone know what the house, other than Dravida, what the house of 25 elements is? It's Sankhya Yoga. It's, like you look at the chemical chart, and it's supposed to be, it's been a while since I looked at the chemical chart, but it's supposed to be all the elements, it's all the atoms, it's all the elements that make up the material world. That's everything. Sankhya Yoga does the same thing, but in a profound way. The great yogis, the Sankhya yogis, there's earth, fire, water, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, there's time. They break everything. Time is the 25th element, stirring the whole thing, like you stir a stew. So it breaks everything in this material, they breaks it all down into all the different elements. That's all there is, and nothing more. So that everything is analyzed in the Vedas. That's the 25 elements. There's a swan. There's only two more things and we're done. Because I want to get to my favorite element of this. Hey, Govinda. Okay. The swan is the Paramahansa who extracts the essence, follows and vibrates the Vedic sounds. So it means the saintly Vaishnavas. They're living in this world like a swan gliding. They're in this world, but they're not affected. They're not polluted. They're above the modes of material nature. Okay, that's their state. But what are they also doing? They're giving pure instruction. They're giving the Vedic information. That's the swan floating in it. And then the last thing is there's a wheel with razors. There's a wheel that's spinning. And we're all being chopped, cut, burned, slashed by you can picture if all of a sudden flying through this room was a wheel of razors spinning, coming right at us. The wrecking ball of time. So this is our position. This is how we are in this material world. And it's described the real father of the great sages. So this opportunity, we're in this dark hole with a polluted intelligence being tossed by the time, the ebb and flow of creation, thinking we've got a reality, but it's just the ephemeral nature of the 25 elements. This is where we're at. And this huge wrecking ball is coming at us, slashing razors. That's our actual condition. And by the grace of Krishna, we've woken up from that dream. We've awakened from that dream. So that is the end of this chapter and how we should feel gratitude and relief and therefore surrender. Okay, have I done my job? Scared the hell out of you? Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. We should in for prasad. Thank you. I will. It's serious business, my friends. You can pack up, but while you're packing up, many, many years ago, I had a friend who did, before I became a devotee, tarot cards. Yeah, the tarot card, the picture on a, tarot card, they use them for casting fortune and stuff like that. But the one called of the Fool, and it on the, isn't it? And he's a prince, and he's handsome and beautiful, and he's dancing, he's having a great time. And I think there's a little dog is there playing with, but he's looking up at the skies and but he doesn't realize he's on the edge of a little cliff. He's dancing on the edge of that precipice, and it's starting to crumble. And that card is called the Fool. That's our situation, my friends. And we're going to go back to it? We've been pulled out, and we're going to go back? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful class. Just telling us how fortunate we are, and the gratitude we should have, being so fortunate to be connected to a bona fide guru and getting association of pure devotees. And also he compares with how Vidura had learned from him, how grateful he was to get the association of this Guru Maitreya Muni. And he wanted to always, he emphasized through this entire class that how fortunate we are, and let me use everything in Krishna's service. So, and the kind of condition which we are in. Thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful nectar. Any reflections or comments? I would just open up the lines for a few minutes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, and Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, and Pranam.
I joined at the fag end, but then what I heard was, when Maharaj was speaking about Prabhupada, and when we hear from Prabhupada's disciples that how Prabhupada was, that actually increases by leaps and bounds our faith and appreciation and gratitude for what we have got. I felt that was the takeaway for me, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful class. Again, as you rightly summarized, Maharaj was reminding us. He was continuously reminding all of us. So, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for bringing that point as well. Yeah, he talked about how the doctor was crying, was gently not expressing much emotions, as
yes.
Prabhupada, at that point of time, and this is about the caring nature of Srila Prabhupada, and he's saying anybody in that position would be suffering so much, but as Maharaj said, there are fortunate people who are different, who are they're only bodily here, but they're absolutely transcendental in their and very focused on the mission and how to please Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
True, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Any other reflections? Okay. Thank you for actually joining us today for this Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Tomorrow we'll be having the class live from temple. So please join us in person if possible. Thank you. I'll just end with a Vaishnava Pranam. Vancha kalpataru kripa sindhubhyo eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Siddhartha Nande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.